to have you here. The time now, 7:42. Kids getting ready to head back to school, and that means lots of stress. Not necessarily for the kids, but for the parents, too.
Right. So between working, cooking, cleaning, driving the kids around, how can parents put together a system where everyone pitches in? Corinne Gregory with Social Smarts joins us now, and thank you so much for being here.
Glad to be back.
And you were saying your kids are heading back next week.
That's right. I feel like the segment producer was actually spying on my life when I got these questions. Wait a minute, trick question.
Your
I know this
phone
one.
rang. You're like, oh, how did you know?
That's right.
So lots of ways to get the kids involved, and I know that that's the hardest part because, especially with the summer, how do you get kids to pitch in, especially with the school year coming up?
Well, I think first of all, we as parents are doing our kids a disservice if we let them believe that they're merely consumers in the household. In our household, for example, there are 5 people living there, and what we always point out is that there's 5 people that should be maintaining the household. There's nothing wrong with saying, look, kids, you know, we all have a job to do here, we all live here, let's pitch in. So, you know, maybe something as simple as make a list and talk about what the priorities are, what needs to get done, and who can help out. Very important.
How do you feel about allowances?
Well, allowances, it's interesting. There's multiple trains of thought about allowances. Some people say tie an allowance to chores. Other people say don't make the allowance part of chores. Really, I think I kind of fall a little bit to the latter, where an allowance is fine, but there is expected behavior, there's expected things that need to happen, and you don't necessarily want to reward expected norms of behavior. Certainly reward above and beyond. So if, for example, the students or your children have a certain list of things that they do, and then they go above and beyond and do something else, if they want to earn money, that's great. But an allowance, I think you certainly can give them the allowance, but don't say, oh, if you're just cleaning out the cat box or emptying the dishwasher, you automatically get rewarded. I don't remember getting rewarded for chores.
And so by the same token, then penalizing a child for not living up to their expectations probably not a good idea?
Well, I like to use the idea of privileges and consequences. So the more responsible you are, the more privileges you get, and if you don't fulfill your responsibilities, you can certainly take back those privileges. For example, TV time, computer time, we time, whatever have you. That can be a privilege that you basically bestow based on their normal behavior. But I don't necessarily say, oh gosh, if you haven't done your job well, okay, now you're going to be in the penalty box for an hour.
Penalty box, there's something. I was in one for
5
hockey.
5 minutes.
5 minutes in the penalty box.
A little sports analogy there.
I love it. What about for parents with more than one child? Because in my household, it was my sister and I, and they got us to do the chores, but there was a lot of bickering associated. It's your turn to feed the cats. No, it's your turn to sweep the garage. So what do you recommend as far as helping maybe make it more fun? Or
I think, first of all, put a list of chores together that everybody has to choose from. If they pick something that they are less likely to hate, not everybody likes chores, but here's something a little less likely to hate, then they already feel like they got a little buy-in. And then some things where you need to basically dole out things or schedule things, put it on a calendar and say, this week it's your turn, next week it's my turn, put it on a calendar, and we know exactly who did it. That's the system that works in our house.
One thing that we found in our household is that we as parents have got to be on the same page with everything. I mean, you cannot have the kids running to the other parent and saying, well,
Mom said.
Dad said, or better yet, I know I can get this from Mom and probably not Dad.
Right.
And that happens too, right?
Oh, it does a lot. And you're right, Bill. I mean, they need to be on the same page, and more importantly, they both need to take a role in running the household. You can't just say this is all Mom's job and that's all Dad's job. Don't divide it necessarily along gender lines. That doesn't set a good example for your kids. But to figure that everybody that lives in the household participates in the household is hugely important.
Let's talk about another huge source of stress I know for parents, because as soon as school starts back up again, it's activity central. It's soccer practice, piano lessons. How do you recommend that? You're there right now already.
I'm there.
I can't even.
Hell.
As a kid, I had no idea it was that difficult. As an adult, I'm seeing it. Do you recommend carpools or ride shares with other families?
I think the more you can use that, it takes a village mentality to try to offset the load. Particularly if, for example, a spouse travels a lot, you suddenly need to split your own DNA 3 ways. In my case, that's what happens. Yeah, if you can rely on other people to help, but then also be willing to help yourself. And what I find is if I offer to help somebody first, you find that then they are much more likely to reciprocate. So if you can share the load, then that's certainly, you know, a way to retain your sanity.
We have about 20 seconds left. School right around the corner. What would you suggest for parents to get kids ready for what's coming here next week?
Right. Well, set a schedule already. I mean, don't just wait until the week of school and then start, you know, back into the regular school routine. Ease them into it, particularly the younger your children are. Get them up at a more normal bedtime. Put them to bed at a more normal bedtime for school.
Yeah.
Get them up on something that would get them to school on time. Maybe get in the routine of putting clothes out or picking your clothes out if you've got teen kids ahead of time. Just kind of ease into it so that you don't like slam the door the moment the school starts.
Corinne Gregory from Social Smarts, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Great information as always. You can check out Corinne's new book, Breaking the Bullying Culture, or you can learn more about Social Smarts by heading to socialsmarts.com.
It is 7:48. MJ, how are we looking outside for today?